Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Can Your Microinverter Do This? Saving Time and Cost with NEP. I'm Chris Kroll, editor of Solar Builder Magazine, and I'll be your moderator today. Before we get into it, we'd first like to launch a quick poll. So please submit your answer and then click the blue Return to Presentation button. NEP believes the solar industry has pushed forward with the solar equipment status quo for far too long, and is here to challenge that status quo by filling industry gaps with the next generation. Here to tell us about it today is James Kowick, Business Development of NEP, and we also have Fan Wong, CTO of NEP, standing by as well. Following James's presentation today, there will be a question and answer session. So please feel free to type your questions into the designated panel on the left-hand side of your screen there at any time, and we'll be getting to them at the end. Also know that today's webinar is being recorded and it will be available on demand at solarbuildermag.com so that you can go back and re-listen to it at any time or refer it to a colleague to check it out as well. That will include all the slides and just everything that you see in here today. And that pretty much takes it out of my hands right now, and I will now be turning it over to James. Take it away.
Hey, thank you. And thank you everyone for attending this webinar today. As he said, my name is James Kowick. I am a Business Development Associate at NEP, and in this webinar, I'm going to keep it pretty brief. I'm going to tell you the story about who NEP is, what advantages we have in the marketplace, and what industry norms we are setting out to challenge. So without further ado, let's get into it. NEP was founded in the United States as a certified benefits corporation, which means that we strive for human, societal, and shareholder value, all in equal part. We're also a member of the SunSpec Alliance to enhance compatibility and ultimately promote innovation within our industry. NEP has global operations, but is headquartered in the Silicon Valley with our head engineers and research and development facilities in San Jose, California. And our mission is to drive down the cost of solar while simplifying installation and improving long-term reliability. We have an advantage in doing so by being a fast follower with nimble engineering and the best service execution. And we essentially aim to fill the voids and gaps that we've identified with the incumbents in the market to generate customer-focused value. We've sold over 300,000 of our microinverters for 8 years and are deployed in 35 different countries all over the world. We believe that this speaks volumes to our technology's ability and our business's agility to meet various certification requirements in a diverse range of conditions and jurisdictions. Many of the countries that NEP got its legs in are actually extremely tropical climates, such as those in the Pacific Islands and Latin America. So building our customer base in these extremely harsh operating conditions has forced our engineers to mature our products to be tough and ruggedly durable in design. One of the first markets that we entered was Japan. We're actually the only certified microinverter in Japan, which, as most know, is a market with very high standards for engineering reliability. Shown on this slide is a pretty cool floating project, which was completed with our microinverters a few years back. This is a new project, a commercial roof in Washington, that was just completed with our microinverters. In the present moment, NEP has shifted its focus to prioritize gaining share in the US market, challenging the status quo, and capitalizing on some key deficits that we have identified with the name brands. So now that you guys know a little bit about us and what we've set out to do, let's get into our products and how they challenge the status quo in the market. All of our microinverters are configurable for 240 and 208 systems, making them optimal for single or three-phase systems. Our most popular model on the market to date is the BDM 600. This is a dual microinverter, which we've recently increased the power from 550 watts AC to 580 watts AC per 2 panels. This way, it can produce a really healthy energy curve with up to a 360 watt panels. We also have 2 single panel models, one lower power 300 watt AC microinverter and one high power 500 watt model, which we like to call the macro inverter. This can handle the highest power modules on the market with zero clipping. And our newest model to hit the market, which will begin shipping imminently, is the BDM 800. This is a dual 400-watt AC ×2 microinverter. This model will enable the price benefit of a dual microinverter and the power potential to maximize energy harvest with the best panels on the market. So the biggest industry norm that we're going after is energy clipping. If microinverters are to stay competitive in the marketplace, they need to keep up with and maximize the energy harvest of modules with rising power levels. We have two options to do so. As I touched on, our BDM 500 is the only microinverter on the market that is actually ahead of modules in power potential. This device can squeeze every last drop out of power out of the highest level panels on the market. We also have our newest model, the BDM 800, which, as I said, gives you the benefit of a dual microinverter without sacrificing any power output either. When choosing between a single or a dual microinverter, it's important to understand the trade-offs of going with a 2-to-1. Some pros is that the more power conversion per device enables the best cost per watt rate. The more devices and enclosures increases fixed costs associated with a microinverter, so having a dual gives the best economies of scale on cost. Another benefit is that installing half of the amount of microinverters streamlines installations and improves efficiency while significantly cutting labor costs. Some trade-offs are that the cost benefit can be reduced if installers have a lot of odd numbered arrays. We've compensated for this by having a 1-to-1 model that can coexist on a single string with our duals to make up for that, but you do still lose some cost benefit if you have numerous arrays with odd numbers of panels. There's also a little more thinking that goes into designing a system with a dual microinverter. When it's not as simple as 1 micro per panel, this takes a little getting used to, but we believe that you'll find that the ease in installation makes up for this in spades. Another way that we're unsettling the status quo is by sacrificing a sleek, elegant design for rugged durability. The reason for this is that when one device contains so much power, you need to prioritize utility rather than aesthetic. Think of it as a Chevy truck rather than a Jaguar. This is to enable a long power production lifespan and is especially important we see it as especially relevant since microinverters go underneath the panel and aren't visible anyways. Power electronic long-term reliability comes down to heat dissipation. This is why we did away with the norm of a small black plastic box for a full aluminum housing with a massive heat sink on the front for thermal dissipation. This has led our products to have a failure rate of 0.05% in some of the harshest conditions in the world. We've also improved long-term reliability by widening our max power point tracking voltage range to 22 to 55 volts, well above the market standard. This improves efficiency and reduces strain on the device in harsh conditions.
Hey, Drew, James.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, I think we have a quick poll to launch. I didn't want to ruin your flow, but I think there was a poll we wanted to throw up there.
Yeah, go for it.
So, Meg, if you want to launch that, and then we'll wait for the answers. Okay. What is your willingness to consider dual panel microinverters? Seems like most of the audience is pretty willing. I'm not sure if we want to send the results, if we want to just come in, but good news for you, James. Most of the audience seems to be pretty willing.
Yeah, good to know, and I apologize for not stopping for the poll earlier.
It's okay.
But
when you get in the zone,
to get back into it. Yep, to get back into it, as you can see, this slide shows a test site in Guadalajara, Mexico. When heat increased at this test site, voltage dropped, and when you have a device with a constrained MPPT voltage range, it results in a dramatic loss in MPPT efficiency and a resulting power loss of almost 10% under these conditions. Although not all locations are this dramatic, over time, pushing a power electronic device to its voltage range poles will put strain and lead to a loss in power production reliability on these devices. So this is just one more thing that we'd like to demonstrate in how we've worked to enhance long-term reliability. Another way that we're different from other brands on the market is the integration of our AC cable into the device. You simply daisy chain the AC line and you are good to go in our plug-and-play system. This change minimizes connections and accessories necessary to create the AC line, simplifying the installation, improving efficiency, and minimizing room for error. The pre-sized cable length also helps reduce wasted materials that result from splicing PV wire in the field. And the price integration of the wire with the device reduces hidden costs. Here's a diagram for your reference of all the necessary components in a given system with our device. As you can see, including our monitoring system, you only need a maximum of 6 SKUs to complete an entire system. This is part of the simplification that we're trying to bring to the installation process. Fewer accessories, fewer SKUs, fewer headaches for the installers. So to briefly touch on a few ways that we are on par with the status quo, we do have a NEMA 6 and IP67 protection rating. Each unit is burn tested, and a sample from each batch of units is thermal cycling tested, where the units are submerged in burning water and then frozen and powered up with a full load thereafter. We are also NEC and AFCI rapid shutdown compliant, as microinverters must be in the market. This is our module level monitoring system, the BDG 256 gateway, as we call it. It communicates through power line communication for reliable and consistent data, comes with a user-friendly touchscreen interface, web-based and mobile app monitoring available on the App Store, is capable of connecting to over 250 microinverters, and something that makes it a little different from others on the market is that it plots a data point every 1 minute as opposed to most systems every 10 to 20 for that continued improved commissioning efficiency that we are trying to bring to the marketplace. So essentially, we know that the status quo is good, but as Chris introduced, we believe that it can be better. So we're trying to shift the paradigm in a way that simplifies installation, improves reliability, and helps the health of the industry and the market overall. So for anyone's reference who wants a little more resources,
you are designated as a presenter.
So I'm going to share my screen to show a little bit of navigation with our website for anyone who wants a few more resources. So if you can see my screen now, it's northernep.com is our website. Super user-friendly. You can learn more about us, our team, our employees, and past projects, including some of our charitable donations required by our B Corp certification. Our products are here, some news about our company, and what's most popular is the resources page, where there's frequently asked questions, as well as numerous supporting materials, such as install guides, videos about setting up the gateway, which is the steepest point of learning curve in our systems, but we have numerous resources to accommodate for this. And also ways to contact us for future support. Oh, it looks like my screen didn't share. Did my screen not share?
I wasn't sure. It's hard to tell from the presenter view. I'm not sure that it did.
Okay, well, I won't dwell on that. If you want to check us out more, our website is northernep.com. And from there, as I said, I wanted to keep it brief, so I think that we should dive into the Q&A.
Yep, sounds good. Good stuff, James. We have some questions here. Before we get into them, we have one last poll that we wanted to have all of you ask. We'll ask you a question before we address yours. And while you're doing that, I will remind you that you can send in your questions on the left-hand portion of the screen. And any questions we don't get to during the live presentation will be addressed offline by our presenters. So no worries about that. Okay. All right, so I'm going to jump into the Q&A here. Questions on the 500, James. First, some basics. Just when is it shipping to the U.S.? What is the AC power level it can support? And what is the unit cost?
So as far as the AC power output is a maximum of 500 watts AC. It can be paired with up to a 750 watt DC panel, which I don't know if is actually existent, but it can be paired with the highest power panel in the market. Price, I think that would be something to message me offline. I'd be happy to answer any price questions and give out any quotes if anyone's interested offline. If you want to take down my email, actually, it's jlcowick@northernep.com. To get into pricing stuff, I'd be happy to engage in that offline with anyone who's interested. Oh, and as far as shipping goes, it is currently shipping to the U.S., and so it's readily available right now.
Great. Sticking with the 500, someone wondered why the 500 is 50% over and the 300 is only 20% oversized.
Yeah, maybe I can answer this question, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
This, the oversize on the DC side for the inverters in general is it depends on lots of conditions. Depends on the customer's request. Depends on the customer practice. And say, for example, in Japan, people like to heavily oversize. The reason is the utility only allow people to get connected, limited by the AC power. So with the limit on the AC power, they try to get almost 100% from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. the whole day. But in the U.S., this is not the issue because most of the customer we see, they don't want to oversize that much. They want to see, they don't want to see clipping basically. They want to make sure the inverter is big enough to handle all the output from the panel. And also that also depends the way that 50% or 20% also depends on the location. If you are in SoCal, Southern California, you may want to maybe 20%. But if you are in like a more northern side of the U.S., maybe you can go a little bit higher on that percentage.
Got it. Good info. So I did release the results of the poll of the question we had here of your level of concern about energy clipping due to microinverter AC power limitations. And most responses were in the somewhat concerned to very concerned range. James, I was wondering if you could maybe just add some more context around that issue. I mean, is that something you're hearing a lot of customers having issue with in terms of, the other products they're using, and what are some horror stories of what that can result in out there?
Yeah, so essentially why we're going after that in the main, as part of our main value proposition is that what's happening in the marketplace is that PV power amongst the panels is going up. And our company's mission is to drive down the cost of solar while driving up the quality, essentially, to make it a competitive energy source. So for microinverters to stay relevant and for the energy source to stay competitive, they have to keep up with the rising power levels so that people can maximize their power output from their systems. So you can it's common knowledge that you can get more power out of these larger panels with other inverter systems. So we are trying to close that gap.
Question here on people still trying to do the math on the panels versus your more macro microinverters. Can they use two 520 watt panels for the 800 watt microinverter?
Yes, they can. A fan can go more into detail, but it will just essentially clip at 400 each, I believe. Fan, do you want to address this?
Yeah, that's right. For the 500, that's like nominal power. It's like a peak time you can get 500. Then at that time you're gonna see some clipping. But on most of the time, like normal conditions, because normal condition power, typically you're gonna see 10% or even more drop from the 500. So in that case, maybe you will not see that much of the clipping. So I think the simple answer is yes. On the extreme case, on the like very good sunshine, very good radiation, very cool day, you're gonna see clipping. But most of the time, I think the BDM 800 will handle that panel.
Is there a connector to bypass a disabled device in chain, say for maintenance?
Bypass the devices, you mean, well, this thing is, they call with each panel actually, this is different from string inverter. All the panels work by their own. If you have some panels have some issues, that will not affect other panels because these go with the AC bus. All the ACs are combined together. So there really will not be an issue with you have like one or two panels have any problem.
And am I right that you have two-way PLC communication built into these? And if so, why? Like, what are the virtues of that?
Oh, the two-way PLC for the microinverter? Because you want to do, well, yeah, because that gives two functions. First one is you're going to do monitoring. So you have a gateway or central communication device to collect information from each individual inverters. And also you can upload that to the server for remote monitoring, for management, for data collection. That's one way. Another way, in some case, you want to, we also offer the customer the capability, obviously, mainly for the installers or like authorized professionals to reconfigure the inverter just on the extreme cases. Because sometimes you have a very weak power grid. You want to increase the range allowed parameters for the voltage, frequency. You can do that. So that also gives the capability for the monitoring device or the controller to reconfigure the inverter parameters. So that makes it like you want to have like two-way, not just listen to the inverter, but also you want to talk to the inverter to reconfigure that.
And do your microinverters also have a thermal shutdown trigger? Like people wondering here about the rapid shutdown compliance nuances that you might offer as a part of the solution.
Yes, the microinverter complies with the rapid shutdown because the microinverter only works with individual panel. Will never exceed 80 volt on the DC side. And also the inverter has a temperature sensor in it. When the temperature is over a limit, it can reduce the power or shut down the inverter just for protection.
A question on your support staff. Someone just here noting how crucial tech support is. How well staffed are you for immediate support needs?
Maybe this question is for James. So I can answer briefly. Maybe James, you can add more on it. Yes, we have support team in the U.S. and also for the U.S. market. Actually, we also have support teams in other part of the world for different areas. I think the simple answer is yes. We do have a support team in the U.S.
Yep, we have local tech support and fulfillment support. Currently, we have a 90% call answer rate as well. And this is actually something that I actually had a slide on this, but I cut it down due to size of the presentation. But it's something that Ed, our CEO, who is somewhat online, is really stressing and is known for prioritizing. So we're working really deliberately and methodically to scale that system with our business as well, because we know that it's a gap in certain parts of the industry and certain brands have mixed reviews. So that's something that we're really prioritizing, is being accessible, accountable, and having really high levels of support. We also offer on-site training for first installations. So we're willing to be aggressive and really hand-holding with installers to incentivize them to try out our product.
Do you monitor the internal temperature of the devices?
Yes, we do. We have that number just for, actually we have a minute by minute monitoring, not just temperature, also voltage, frequency, power, energy, and that one is available if you have a gateway for the remote monitor as well. So basically, yes, we have a minute by minute data for the temperature.
Cool. Okay. There are other questions here, but they're maybe just too specific, and I feel like would be better answered offline, possibly. I think that kind of concludes the general questions that we've received. So, James, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to mention, but if not, I'll just wrap things up here today.
I think that's a wrap for me. Please, anyone online, feel free to contact me with any further questions that you want to address online or offline. Thank you very much for attending.
Very good. That concludes today's presentation. Thanks to NEP for sponsoring. Yes, you will be able to review the PowerPoint presentation or the presentation as a whole on demand whenever you'd like at solarbuildermag.com. So check back at any time, refer it to a friend, and check out NEP. They have some cool stuff going on. So thanks for listening, and bye for now.
Thank you very much.